Welcome to today's Emunah Minute. A few days ago in Daf Yomi, we had a beautiful Gemara, a fascinating Gemara about the great sage Rav. And the Gemara discusses that Rav used to administer lashes when he felt that people were acting in a certain inappropriate fashion. The Gemara gives a whole bunch of examples of this. For example, the Gemara says, Man mekadish b'shuka. If a man betrothed a woman in the shuk, in the marketplace, Rav would flog, Rav would give lashes for such an infraction. What's the logic? Rav felt kiddushin, betrothal, marriage is something very important. It's not something you do just transactionally in the marketplace. It's not something you just do, 1, 2, 3. It requires koved rosh, it requires concentration, it requires intent, it requires a certain level of seriousness. And the Gemara goes through a whole list of various infractions like this, and at the end of it, the Gemara says something amazing. The Gemara talks about a person who was in Shanta, a person who was excommunicated because of some type of infraction. And the Gemara says, and he did not show up for 30 days to Beis Din to try to revoke his excommunication. Rav would flog such an individual. So again, if a person was excommunicated and he didn't try to appeal his excommunication for 30 days, Rav would administer lashes, Rav would flog such an individual. When I saw this Gemara, I think it's a very simple question. If you notice, the Gemara doesn't say that Rav would flog, would give malchus, would give lashes to a person who was excommunicated. It was only if you were excommunicated but didn't try to get yourself out of the excommunication, that's when Rav would go ahead and administer lashes. And perhaps Rav was trying to teach us, the Gemara was trying to teach us such an incredibly profound lesson. You see, the concept of excommunication means a person made a mistake. You see, in life, we all make mistakes. We try to avoid making mistakes, but we all know no matter how much you try to avoid making mistakes, it's going to happen. It's just a question of frequency and severity. But at the end of the day, we will always make mistakes. In life, Rav was teaching us, it's not the making of a mistake for which you are held accountable. It's once you've made the mistake, failure to remedy your circumstances, failure to remedy your situation, that's where there's accountability. See, you have this individual who was excommunicated because of whatever he did. It happens. It happens. People get excommunicated. People fall into Shamta, into Chayrim, into Nidui. All kinds of things happen. All kinds of mistakes happen. To err is human. To err is normal. To make mistakes is par for the course. But Rav says, now you're excommunicated. And you don't show up to Beis Din for 30 days. And you don't show up to try to ameliorate your difficulty, to try to address your plight, to try to right your wrong. Rav says that's when you're held accountable. That's when there are lashes. That's where there is real punishment for failure to act to remedy your circumstances. We all make mistakes in life. The shaila is, after we've made the mistake and we find ourselves in the compromised situation, do we just simply wallow in it, complain about it, lament it? Or do we find the courage to do something about it? Do we find the inner strength to say, you know what, I messed up, and maybe I even messed up big time. But here's where I am. Now the shaila is, how do I get out of it? How do I extricate myself from these circumstances? How do I change this reality? There is limited liability for the mistakes that we make. Real liability comes when you fail to remedy your circumstances, when you fail to extricate yourself from the difficult situation into which you got yourself. If you got yourself in, find the courage to get yourself out. We should be zocha, that halavai, we should make less mistakes. To say we would make no mistakes, not going to happen. We should be zocha to live lives of attentiveness where at least we make less mistakes. But when we do make mistakes, which inevitably will, when we find ourselves in those moments of excommunication, when we find ourselves in compromised circumstances, may we find the courage to, so to speak, show up in Beis Din and appeal our sentence. We should find the courage to look at where we are and to figure out, what can I do to make things better? What can I do to turn this around? What can I do to extricate myself from these difficult circumstances? Wishing everyone a wonderful day.